Coach David Buchanan. Coach Chuck Smith. Two legendary high school football coaches. This is the Coach's Office, a behind-the-scenes look at Kentucky high school football.
Welcome to the Coach's Office, behind the scenes with Chuck Smith and David Buchanan. This is off-season 3, episode 2. This is going to be our Super Bowl episode. Okay, I'm Chuck Smith. I'm joined by co-host David Buchanan, podcast editor, flashback storyteller Mac Yoakum. Our YouTube version of this podcast is at TCOP, T.C.O.P. If you'd hit like and subscribe, we'd appreciate it. As far as our show for tonight goes, it's the Super Bowl episode. It will feature former Kansas City Chief, former Philadelphia Eagle, former Eastern Kentucky University, and former Harrodsburg High School star Jason Dunn. This is going to be a great show. We couldn't have put this script any better because Jason not only played for the Kansas City Chiefs, but he played for the Philadelphia Eagles, and those are the two Super Bowl teams. So, it just unfolded perfectly for us. It's a great setup. We're going to bring Jason on here just shortly. Also on this episode, we're going to David and I will pick our Super Bowl picks. I'm going to wait till after I hear Jason talk so I get the insight of who he thinks will possibly win this. I got a pretty good idea because I can tell by the hat he's wearing, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. And then at the end, we're going to do a tribute to Philip Haywood. Dave and I got a story each that with our relationship with Philip that we'll share. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about Jason and his background before we bring him on. As I said, he played for Harrodsburg High School in Kentucky. That school no longer exists. It merged and consolidated with Mercer County, but back in the day, they were a powerhouse. He played at Eastern Kentucky University. He was drafted in the second round, the 54th person taken in the 1996 draft, and he was taken by the Philadelphia Eagles. He stayed there for 3 seasons. Then I think he set out the 99 season with a knee injury, and then he was picked up by the Kansas City Chiefs, where he finished his NFL career 8 seasons into that. His post-NFL career, he gave back to the sport. He coached a little bit at Lafayette High School, and then he spent maybe 10 seasons at Kentucky State University, coaching and helping them coach there. He's in the Kentucky Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's in the Eastern Kentucky University Hall of Fame. And he is part of his Chief Concerns podcast. And he'll tell us a little bit about that as we get through the podcast. We appreciate Jason taking the time to join us tonight. David, you want to bring him on?
Hey, I do. And I'm thinking back to when I met Jason, or at least the encounter I remember the most was he had just been recognized as a hog at our Titan game. And I met him at that gate where we would go off and on the field, and he may not even remember it. But I remember meeting him, and 2 things. Incredibly nice. It was great to meet him. And I thought, this is the biggest man I have ever seen in my life. And hey, it's all muscle. He is a big guy, but couldn't have been nicer. And, Jason, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. It's been sort of tough navigating this merger. And, well, I tell you what, for you to come back and be a hog that night, to be part of our program, that was so big for us. And I will be forever grateful for that effort. And so, again, hey, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. And, it's very much an honor. So thank you, Jason.
Well, appreciate you, gentlemen, for having me. Y'all do a wonderful job. Y'all are titans and giants in the community. and have been for quite some time. And so even when I was in the NFL, I would hear a lot of stories, of course, of all the winning that Bull County was doing in Harrodsburg, all the changes that was being made. It kind of shocked me because when I came back, when I actually retired from the NFL, I went into coaching. Went up to Lafayette. And so they were speaking about Bull County. Now, listen, don't take my words as something negative. We're going to play Bull County. Of course, I was just like, listen, we used to have Bull County. They used to be doormats. Everybody used to get them on homecoming. And, and I'm telling the team. And so the coaches are kind of like, hey, Jason, like, Bull County's done won like 5 state championships in a row. I'm like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? They're like, yeah. And so when I heard Chuck was up there, I'm like, oh, okay, now it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And so it's being amongst you guys and having this conversation is really an honor to me, just because of the things that y'all have done, like I said before, in the community, what you meant to a lot of the young men that's come through just that area and football wise, but also too just the impact that y'all been able to make. And I just want to just give y'all that recognition for what y'all been able to do, man. And thank you, gentlemen, for having me tonight too, as well.
Appreciate it, Jason. Let me start it off right here. My first question to you is, the social media has generated much discussion about the referees being biased towards the Chiefs. Some even go beyond bias and say it's a conspiracy to keep or to protect Patrick Mahomes. What do you think of all that? Do you think there's any truth to that or what?
Well, I tell you what, I had on my show, I had Jim Deopoulos on my show last night. Well-known NFL official for a number of years. He officiated, I think, for like 25 years. Then he was behind the scenes doing all of, like, as far as grading the coach or the officials and whatnot. And I asked him the exact same thing. And he was just like, you know what, Jason? He said, there's nothing there. He said, man, the conspiracy theories of everybody sitting there saying that we're rigging it for the Kansas City Chiefs or we're protecting quarterbacks. He said, it's just not true. It's just not true. And so one thing he always wanted to make plain and assertive was, listen, we got a job to do. And so we want to be employed. And so if we don't do our job, we get canned, we get fired, just like everybody else, if we don't do our job correctly. He said, now, look, we're all human. We are. And so sometimes we make mistakes, but we do go to the booth. We do go for the replays so we can get everything right. And so I told to him, I said, listen, I dealt with you all before. I'm still mad at a holding call that y'all called against me a long time ago. I'm not sure who threw it on me. I said, that was one of my greatest blocks I ever made. I could just see the flag going over across my head. I said, but the crazy part is y'all probably didn't call me on about 100 of the other ones that I probably actually did, And so, but Jim just really said that, they really try to get the calls right. They really do. And so some of these conspiracy theories obviously comes out, and he said that part of the problem is when the Kansas City Chiefs or any team is winning a lot, obviously you're going to have controversy, right? Yeah. Coaches, y'all know this. And Absolutely. So sometimes people come up with all different excuses. That's what it is, excuses and why people are winning. But I said, man, we can't miss the moment of what's actually happening here. Okay, the Kansas City Chiefs actually have a chance to write in the history books the legacy of being one of the greatest teams to ever play. Mm-hmm. Become the only team to ever repeat for a Super Bowl in the history of the game. And I said, I don't want us to miss that because we're trying to grab conspiracy theories over here on why these things are happening. And I said, in any play, and we know this, there can be a flag thrown, a holding, or anything all the time. It just happens. But they do try to get it right. And so I don't think there's anything there, man. People are just upset. Yeah. That's what it is, more so than anything else.
I agree with you. I do. Mm-hmm. Well, I think the more you win, the more people look to think that it's not, that there's something wrong. And that's basically, I think, what's happening here.
Yeah.
Well, and hey, so the other somewhat piece was social media and the Chiefs. Okay. Mm-hmm. Taylor Swift. How much has she increased the viewership and following of not only the Chiefs, but the entire NFL? And how will her presence impact the Super Bowl?
Well, I tell you what, she has increased viewership and more fans exponentially. She really has.
Exponentially. Wow.
Yeah. And if you're sitting there saying you have the biggest pop star, okay, or artist that's out here, she's dating Travis Kelce, which is NFL royalty at this moment, who's just having a one heck of a run right now, just in his career, as going down as one of the greatest tight ends ever played a game. That's just a great combination. It's good for business. And so now what we've done is we've been able to adopt a lot of the Swifties that are following her. They have, I think, increased, man. Chuck, David, I think somewhere they said like 24% of more fans of women and young girls that have started to watch the NFL because of that has generated somewhere up to like $33 million alone just in her presence. And so, listen, the NFL is always about business. It's a business first, more than anything else. Y'all know this. And so they felt like this is great business. Why would we want to show her in the the boxes and the nice seats and let her come into the stadium? Because she's an icon. She's a world icon. And so I think it's a great thing. But look, these are two young people that enjoy each other. They're having fun, and I'm all for it. I think they're doing a great job of it. People get tired of seeing her, but for me, hey, look, it works. It absolutely works.
Yeah.
Hey, but I'm going to tell you, I never thought I'd hear Jason Dunn say the word Swifties, but hey, there we are. And I like what you said. And I mean, I think it's been a neat side note that's gotten. I mean, I think my daughter, my wife, my daughter-in-law, I think they're more interested now in watching the NFL than in the past, and it's been pretty cool. So
100%. That's the way it is in my family. My wife and my daughter and all my granddaughters, they'll watch if she's on.
Yeah. Well, they said it's brought families together. It really has. So now, before where your daughters and everybody else was out in the kitchen or somewhere else doing other things, hey, it's Taylor Swift at the game, right? Or what's going on out here? And so everybody kind of gets into it. But that gives us an opportunity as coaches and as fans and as players to teach them a little bit about the game, right? Well, what's going on over here? And so my wife, who now, I'm telling you, guys, she knows how to read cover 2, cover 3. She knows zone read or what. She knows it all. And I'm just like, how you? She's like, I listen to you. And so when you're sitting over here and you're yelling at the TV, why a guy didn't get a block or what you're looking at, I can see it. I could see the two high safeties. I can see them. I'm like, wow, it's
awesome.
Good. Yeah,
it is. It is. So it's good for business.
Jason, I got the next question for you. I want to go back to the Harrodsburg days because this has always fascinated me. It really has. I think it's unbelievable. But Harrodsburg High School, which if anybody remembers, the old guys remember, there was a small high school. I don't know how many students, 200, 250 students. I don't remember. It wasn't very many, but it produced, 3 NFL players that I know of, at such a small school. I know it was you, Craig Yeast played, Dennis Johnson played.
Yeah.
I think that was the only 3 that played in the NFL.
Well, you had then Derek played up in Cincinnati Bengals, and also Julius Yeast played with
Julius
he played with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, I thought I couldn't remember if Julius had or not. But even other than that, you had several others, that played major college football, like Henry Parks, like Venus Mukes, like Donald Wayne Smith. I mean, unbelievable talent came out of that small school. And what do you think? I mean, what's your view on that?
You know what?
How could that happen?
Thinking about. Well, I think a lot of it had to do with the environment that Coach Johnson fostered. He fostered an environment of competition, challenging one another to be better than what we were, but also to make everybody else around you better. And so for us, it was never about failing. It was always about being the best. It was always about winning. And so he did a tremendous job of doing those things as far as like teaching guys, hey, look, we got to do this thing together. We can't get beat with the greatest team out there. And we believed it. We went out there and we just absolutely believed it. But also too, Chuck, I had to say that I think a lot of it, and you said a lot of names, right? You were saying Bo Yeast, and I think the Yeast family, and of course the Dunn family, the Johnson family. So we came from families that already had athletes, that already established themselves as guys that went on to bigger things, in the sports world. And so I know I'm the youngest out of, really 14, and my brothers played college ball, had a chance to play in the league, and they were good ball players. So that was kind of my standard. My standard was always that. And so I think a lot of it had to do also too with families that had already been established. Like you said, Bo Yeast, Craig knew that. Coach Johnson, obviously his two sons, and George. I mean, you just name it. So that was a lot of it, I think, because Coach Johnson took those families, those guys out of it, and just nurtured it even more.
Yeah, he did.
So yeah, I think it's what it was.
Yeah. I remember my first experience with Harrodsburg, even before I got to Boyle. I was telling David about this, and it was you, and I was at Campbellsville. We came over to play you all. I don't remember if it was a playoff game or if it was just a regular season game, but I remember out there on the field, and you were playing like middle linebacker. Was your number like in the 40s, like 48 or something like that?
Yeah, 47. Yeah,
47.
Yes.
And I mean, you were like 6'6", long, run fast. I mean, and then I'm sitting over, I'm looking at those assistant coach, and I'm saying, what the hell have we gotten into? I said, Lord, I said, I'm going to have to ask this 5'10", 185-pound offensive lineman to block him. How's that going to go? Needless to say, you all beat us.
Yeah.
Hey, I was going to tell you this too. So last night, Stephanie and I go out to eat in Harrodsburg down at the Pizza Pub, and in walks Jay Parks. And I got to visit with Jay a little bit, and that was fun. And Jay's son played quarterback at Woodford for Dennis.
Dennis, yes.
So we got to visit and talk a little bit about that. But it is, we're naming off all these names. Well, I mean, Jay was a scholarship guy at UK, and a lot of great players.
A lot of great players.
Jason, so the next one, man, you played for two iconic, legendary coaches in Ray Rhodes and Dick Vermeil. And so I'm just wondering, what did you take from their coaching styles? How are they similar? How are they different?
Wow. So, in the NFL for sure. But I don't want to miss out on the ones, like I said, Roy Kidd playing for him at EKU, one of the winningest coaches of all time in college history. And obviously we talking about Coach Johnson. I was Johnson in Harrodsburg. But Ray Rhodes and Dick Vermeil, to me, were men that led guys. And I think because Ray had played in the league for a long time, he kind of understood where guys were. He understood what made us tick. And so he was a player's coach, and he would just he'll keep it to you straight. He had demands for you, what they had to do, what he wanted you to do. And Ray had probably some of the greatest speeches I've ever heard in a locker room to just get you going, ready just to run through a brick wall. And it was like always off the top of the head, he would just come with it that I could just remember him to the day. We all had it remember speeches that just resonated with us. And Ray had a great job of doing that. But Ray also had a really interesting knack about accountability. I remember toward the end when we weren't doing so well, this is before he had just gotten fired. And he said, I sat down with him. We were just at a restaurant. He was like, hey, Jason, he said, I'll probably get fired. He said, but I'll take it. I'll be the guy. I'll go with it. I'll take it on my chin. I'll be the scapegoat. I had no problem doing that. And that taught me a lot about what it means to be a leader and accountability, because he didn't want to put that off on anybody else. It's easy to put it on your coordinator or your defense, they're not doing their job, and, the janitor's not cleaning the locker room like he should, right? But for Ray, it was always on him and his shoulders. So he taught me a lot about accountability. For Coach Vermeil, one of the greatest men I know. he just taught me a lot about guidance and about people, and about loving people and loving players, and like really, really caring about the guys that's in the locker room with him, the coaches and everybody. And he tells a story. He told a story of like when he first got up into Philadelphia, started coaching. He was kind of like the guy that stayed there in the coaches film room until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, sleeping on couches, wake back up, do it all over again. And so he kind of missed his family through all of that. And so when he got to Kansas City, he made it plain to everybody else that this was a family atmosphere, and I want the coaches out of here by 6 o'clock. And that was I'd never seen that before. And he made sure, he said, look, I don't want coaches or players and nobody in here. I want you home. Get your job done, get your work done. I want you out of here. And so he just he was just a genuine person. We would go to his house and go eat. He would bring every position coach over to have dinner, have wine, sit down. Carol would cook the food, and we would just chat it up, man, like we're doing right now. And so he's one of the guys. He would still call or check on me, see how I'm doing. It's always good to see him. He gave me one of the greatest compliments that I've ever heard, and I never forget this. And I'm telling you how it changes people. But I remember coming into a meeting one morning, and before I got into the room, Coach stops me at the door. He said, Jason, he said, it's only certain people that you got to see every day to make your day great. He said, man, you do that for me. And I was like, hey, Coach, thank you. And those things like that, it stays with you. Yeah. And so that's how he feels about his players. And y'all might think I'm crazy, but Coach would come into meetings and he'll start tearing up and crying. And so what he'll show you is he has a different perspective about life, different perspective about what this game of football gave you. Because it was more than just X's and O's and wins and losses. It was about building relationships. It's about building people up. And so I learned a lot from him as far as myself going into being coaching, and the same thing with Ray Rhodes. We're trying to resonate with my guys that I'm coaching, but also to let them know how much I care about them. So
that's good stuff.
I listened to Jason. I listened to one of your podcasts, and I absolutely love the man in the wheelbarrow story that you told about Dick Vermeil. I mean, it is awesome, and yes. The gist of it is, do you really believe? Do you believe enough to get in, to be all in on, and get in that wheelbarrow? It was a great. Have you ever heard it, David?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a great story.
Going across the tight wire.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is a great one. I agree.
All right, Jason, I'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, like you said, the premise of that story is that, are you all in? Are you all bought in, right? It's easy to say those things, right? It's easy to go out there with the sound bites and, I'm bought in. But it's another thing to actually get in the wheelbarrow. It's another thing to actually get in and immerse yourself to say, this is what we're doing. We're winning. I'm all bought in. Forget all the noise and stuff out here. I am with you. And so it was a great story. And things like that, man, David and Chuck, we just, there's things like I remember. Those things I remember, man. I've been immensely blessed with some really, really great people and coaches around me throughout my entire career.
Yeah, it's great. That would fire me up. I know that. Oh, yeah. Jason, here's my last question for you. Is I'm gonna put you on the spot. You played for the Eagles and you played for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Who are you for and why?
Let me see.
Well, I know you're gonna be for the Chiefs because you got it all over. But all right, let me ask you this: who do you think's going to win and why?
Okay. Let me see. Well, who do I think is going to win? I do believe the Kansas City Chiefs is going to win. I think as far as man-to-man, they have the greatest team going into the Super Bowl, comprised of everybody, coaches, talent-wise, the greatest team. Individually, you start looking up across the board, the things they're able to do on offense. They make you cover every single blade of grass, especially on defense. There's, of course, when they come after you, Spagnuolo does a great job of just bringing from all different angles, different things. He is absolutely brilliant how he calls the game. Disguises them, the blitzes so well. But also, too, I don't want to take away and diminish what the Eagles have been able to do. They are very, very well-coached football team. led by Jalen Hurts, who was an incredible talent in itself, and then Saquon Barkley, who's just been having an incredible season just himself. So it's going to be a tight one. It's going to be a tight one. But I do have the Chiefs because of Andy Reid and those things. I think it's what makes the difference is the coaching that these guys give. Look, y'all know this. Chuck, you won a lot of different games. Same thing with you, David. When you've been at places before, when you've learned how to do it, and guys has just been there, you don't blink in those moments. You know how to focus up. You know what it means to be great. And it's a culture. Those things do matter. And so Philly has, I think, 8 new players on it who's never been this far before. But when you have guys that have been forged in that fire, who's won championships, they know exactly what to expect. They know exactly how you had to deal in certain situations. So I'm always going to give the nod to the Kansas City Chiefs, man. Yeah. But Philly was where I cut my teeth, though. That was where I cut my teeth, you know? So
yeah. Right. You know, when that DC for the Chiefs, when he called that corner blitz on that, I think it was the last. I mean, it was brilliant. It was. Brilliant. I think that's the only time they ran it the entire game, but it was the last play, and he couldn't get that pass off, or barely got the pass off. It was brilliant. It was a great call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, it was.
What's crazy? They still had a chance to complete it. Isn't that insane? That was crazy. I mean, and that's the thing between the coaching and the playing. Mm-hmm. I mean, every time you watch a game that involves those two teams, and you throw in the Ravens with that, man, you're watching some great football, Absolutely. Great coaching and players. So
right.
All right. So, hey, Jason, so we're going to step back from the big time of the NFL. We're going to be a couple of hometown guys here a second. And I want you to tell me the truth. You can be critical. Believe me. All right. Since I came home, and a lot of times it was my best friends telling me I was screwing up. So you can let me have it. You know, but you were our hog one night. Mm-hmm. And I got some criticism for doing the hog, dog, and the Titan. They said I was making it tougher for us to move forward because I was remembering old Harrodsburg. You're remembering old Mercer. You shouldn't be doing this. So obviously I thought it was the thing to do, and I can give you my reasons why, but I'm not really interested in that right. I really want to hear what you think. I want to hear, what do you think? The hog, dog, and the Titan. Was it a good thing or was it a mistake? What's your thoughts?
I think it was a beautiful thing. Anytime that you have a community and you could build bridges as opposed to dividers, you're going in the right direction. And I think anytime when people are sitting over here telling you the latter, I'm like, you know, you shouldn't do it this way or separate people. I think that's just wrong. I think it's about togetherness. Community is about, and football brings that together. We know this. One thing football and sports do is they bring people and communities together. And so I think sometimes people get caught up in their own little silos talking about this and that. But it is all about togetherness. And if anybody is talking out against it, I think that they're on the wrong side of doing things. I really do. So I just want to commend you, David, in doing that. And I want to keep encouraging that everybody should be doing the same thing. Because sometimes those voices that's out here, it's causing dissension, it's causing divisiveness. We understand that where their character is. We know who those people are, right? I'm a man of faith, and I do believe that we're talking about loving one another, okay? Loving your neighbor more than anything else. That's what we're supposed to do. Even in the good word, it tells us we're supposed to love our enemies. And so if somebody's telling you, oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, man, tell them, like, look, I got a heart for people being together. And so for me, I think people are just crazy not to do that. And the thing is, man, we got to challenge people on those things, especially in this world today, because we're looking at so much divisiveness and people want to get into their own little, echo chambers about things. And the crazy part is we're more similar on a lot of different things than we are apart. So where are the peacemakers, right? Where are the ones that need to foster those things about community, about being better? Because when you have everybody working together, you just get a better community. You just get better people that are, a thing of that, right? So,
I appreciate you saying that. And if you had told me I was wrong, I could have handled it. I've gotten a lot of that, but I appreciate and really the details you gave are really in line with why I thought that was so important. And hey, you know what? I'm very thankful that we did it. I may change my mind 10 years from now, but I really don't think I will. I think I'll always be glad we did it. I really do.
Yeah.
I'll say one more thing about that is, and I've talked about this. I said, can you imagine if Harrodsburg and Mercer County had gotten together back then? We were playing. I'm like, we would have ran all through the state of Kentucky, with the type of talent we had from Harrodsburg and Mercer County. And it's a shame that some the ignorance. I call it's ignorance. It really is that kept people apart and looking a certain way. It's like, man, that y'all just don't quite get it. Y'all just don't quite get it. That's not how we're supposed to be as people. So, yeah. So,
well,
good job on that.
Well, hey, and thank you. That it really means a lot to me because, here's the thing. I'm not a people pleaser. There were probably two people I wanted to feel like I did a good job. I wanted my dad and Alvis Johnson. Now, those two guys carried a lot of weight with me. And if Alvis Johnson said, hey, Dave, you need to look at A, B, and C, I'm going to look at A, B, and C because out of respect for him and the job that he did. Mm-hmm. But having said that, though, I do want you to know this. It was really important to me that we have a program that the old Harrodsburg guys would be proud of, that the old Mercer guys. So you sharing that, I just want you to know I had a lot of respect for what you guys did at Harrodsburg High. I wanted you to be proud of the product that was on your field. And so I didn't want to get into all that, but I really appreciate what you shared. And hey, before we let you get out of here, please tell our listeners about your podcast and your Super Bowl party on Saturday, February 8th.
So I'll start first with I do a podcast called Chief Concerns that we do live show Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And then, of course, post-game shows with the Chiefs. We've been picked up on Bleacher Report. You can find us on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. We have a great community of people that come out. We call it Chief Concerns family. A lot of things that we do is we want to just love on people, talk football, and try to get it right. So we try to give a nice little look behind the curtains, if you will, on football, having a guy that's played the game, who's coached the game, and just kind of talking about Chiefs. But we talk a lot of different other things as well. And so you can find us on those platforms anytime you want to. The water's fine. Come on in. We'd love to have you. You can talk and ask questions and chat and whatnot, man. Believe me, the door is always open. Y'all are always welcome. So for your listeners and stuff here. And for the Super Bowl party, we're going to have one at the Hilton. And it's going to be on February the 8th, the day before the Super Bowl. That way everybody can kind of go home and enjoy the Super Bowl the way they want to on Super Bowl day. But you're going to have at least 12 to 15 NFL football players down at the Hilton. It's going to be food, drinks, NFL officials, referees. It's going to be football challenges. You have games. You have everything. It's going to be a great atmosphere. We're trying to make this the biggest party, Super Bowl party, in the state of Kentucky. And so if you want a chance to meet NFL football players, come to get autographs, listen about what it means to be in the Super Bowl, and just be around football, this is the place for you to be. And if you're not there, if you're not down in New Orleans for the game, you ought to be up here in Lexington at the Hilton at 3 o'clock on Saturday, February the 8th. Seriously. So
thank you.
Awesome.
And we're going to get all that out to our folks too.
Yeah.
And hey, man, you've been a wonderful guest, Jason. You've been excellent. And I can't thank you enough. And even going back to being the head coach at Mercer and your support, and I'm just very thankful for you, Jason. I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jason.
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you also too. And like I said before, I just appreciate y'all reaching out to me. I would love to come back on anytime y'all like. Matter of fact, I love to get y'all on my show as well. At some time to talk some football, man. And bring some legendary coaches to come in and talk some ball, man. And maybe we get out on this right here, this board a little bit, and get after a couple of folks, man. I love hearing coaches talk and see things.
Hey, Jason, in our world, the guy that gets the pin last wins on the board. Does it work that way at your place too?
All the time. All the time. That's why I always get up there last. So
I got you. Hey, Jason, thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you very much,
gentlemen.
Jason.
All right, now.
Appreciate
y'all
you,
take
buddy.
care, okay? I'll
Yeah.
talk to y'all soon.
We're going to go to the next segment of the show. Now, what do you
Right.
want to do? You want to make our picks now, or do you want to?
Yeah, let's do our picks first, and
Okay.
then let's do our Coach Haywood stories. We'll
Okay.
do those last.
Okay.
Hey, so you want to go first on your Super Bowl pick, or you want me
I
to
can.
go?
I can go
All right,
first.
you go. You got it.
I think my pick is I think the Chiefs are going to win too. I don't see how you can bet against Patrick Mahomes, until somebody beats him, head to head in a game that has meaning. I'm talking about a game that has meaning, like a playoff game, like a Super Bowl game. Till somebody can beat him, then I just don't see how you bet against him. I just think he's really, really good. I think he is definitely all the hype that he gets. He's a winner. I mean, he knows how to do it. He engineers the whole thing. But I'll tell you this, I am a Jalen Hurt fan. I absolutely love the character and the class in which he handled his last few years, or his last year with with Alabama. I mean, nobody could have handled that any better. I mean, it just really showed the kind of character and class that he has. I think he's a special guy. I really do. I just do. I mean, when I didn't know him well, but after I watched or followed how he handled that last year at Alabama, I became a fan for life, because it was just so much character and class in that. But I think overall, I think the Chiefs have the best team. I think it would be they would have to lose the game. I don't know if the Eagles have got enough to beat him.
I got you. I hate to be like everybody else. Here's the thing. I don't know what I can add that'll be different. I'm gonna get in a couple other things here. I was texting you back and forth during the game about that full house set where they had Kelsey in the backfield, and I sort of wonder if a little bit of that is to give the Eagles something to work on, because I think Kelsey's so much better at more, on the line of scrimmage tight end position. But what I thought was fascinating, though, it ties back into what Neil Brown talked about. They were running counter Trey to the left, and then they had those two big backs leading Mahomes on a sweep to the right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Neil talked about. He talked about the new age option. So I do think that's a great play. And I mean, who knows? We may be running that in Lawrenceburg this year. But I do sort of think, though, that I think that's really good. But I think they're going to have Kelsey back where and that's the other thing about him that blows my mind. How does he always get open? But he does. I'm like,
you'd think he'd be on everybody's game plan, wouldn't you? Or report.
I think that I would have three guys with him. I mean, but they figure out how to cover him. And the other thing too, just to sort of get back to the basics of this whole thing. The head coach, the quarterback, and the tight end are first ballot Hall of Famers, and they know how to use them. I'm sort of like you. It's hard to bet against those guys. Yeah. It just really is.
And he'll run in the big games. He'll run in the big games.
Yes.
When he knows the game's on the line, he'll run. But the Eagles have got a good running quarterback too. Jalen Hurts will run as well. So,
but he's also been hurt.
Yeah,
he's also been hurt. So
hey, before we move on, David, I'm going to quiz you on a couple of Super Bowl trivia questions. But listen to this: what two teams have won the most Super Bowl? I'm going to start off with an easy one. What two teams have won the most Super Bowls? It was 6. They've won 6 each. What two teams?
Patriots and Steelers.
Wow, I'm impressed. I'm old. You don't need Donald Mack. You're in good shape. Here's one right here. The Kansas City Chiefs, if they win the Super Bowl, they've already won 4. If they win, they will tie the San Francisco 49ers and what other team for second with 5 apiece? All 3 teams will have 5 apiece. San Francisco 40. God dang, you're really good. The Dallas Cowboys.
Here's the thing.
I'm
It's
not
Super
done.
Bowl 59. I'm 59. I've been here for all of them.
All
Hey, you know
right.
my first Super Bowl memory? The
What?
Colts and the Cowboys were playing. We were living on Kerrigan Drive. I got bored. I went outside and played football in the front yard by myself because the game was boring. That's my first Super Bowl memory. But it's out on Kerrigan Drive there in Danville. I got tired of watching the game.
I got another one for you. This will be an
All right.
easy one. The Super Bowl is the second largest food consumption day in the United States. What's the first?
Thanksgiving?
Sure. Good job. Good job. You're right on fire. Now here's the last one. This will be the toughest one for you. Okay.
All right.
And you might have can use Donald Mack for this one. But
All right.
what 4 teams have never reached the Super Bowl? What 4 teams?
Whoa. Lions, Browns. This is getting tough.
You got 2 more. You're right so far.
Yeah, the first 2 were easy. I don't think I got the other 2.
Yeah. It'd be the Jaguars
Okay.
and the Texans.
I got you. Hey, I got one for you.
All right. Put it on me.
Oh, you're going to kill it. The defensive coordinator for the only undefeated team Super Bowl champ in the history of the NFL. Where did he play his high school football?
Paris High School.
Bingo. Bill Arnsparger. Hey, and I was telling this story today. Coach Arnsparger came and watched us have a defensive practice at Paris one day. Man, you talk about butterflies, forget a big game. Bill Arnsparger, the greatest coach of all time, is watching the Paris Greyhounds have a defensive practice.
I bet y'all were a nervous wreck, weren't you?
Oh, my gosh. Man, it was crazy. But I tell you what, and I like to do this too. I know we're friends, but also I look up to you. You've been a mentor to me. You and Bill Arnsparger remind me a lot of each other. You always put other people ahead of yourselves. You always give credit to others. And that's about as good a compliment as pay anybody. But you do. I see a lot of Bill Arnsparger when I work with you, and I appreciate you. So I know we won't get into all that, but that's just sort of how it plays out.
Appreciate it, David. Hey, David, let's go to our everybody knows in the state of Kentucky, we had a major loss in the football world with the passing of Philip Haywood. And we thought we would, take a minute here and share, a story that we each have with our encounters of Coach Haywood over the years. I'll tell you mine first is we played each other in 2018. It was in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, and it was an absolute awesome experience. One of the bucket list things I wanted to do was I always wanted to coach at Belfry, at their field, in their stadium. I wanted to be, on the other sideline and coach against them. I wanted to take my team in there because I heard all of the stories that it's a real difficult place to play and so forth and so on. So it was kind of a bucket list game for me in that respect. But, we took our team in there, and you come in, and it's like you kind of walk down to the field. Everything, it's like the fans are right on top of you. I mean, they were packed in there. They were wrapped around the field. It was just an amazing atmosphere to coach in. I mean, it was just electric. And I just remember being in that game, and we were fortunate enough to come out and on top in that game. But later, Coach Haywood, he called me later that week. He called out of the blue. I wasn't expecting the call. And he asked, he said, after the season, he wanted to ask me about some things that we were doing, like we were doing, on the field, during this offseason, everything. He wanted to sit down and talk some football with me, share some ideas. And I felt good about myself that the legend himself, the guy that was the winningest coach in the state of Kentucky, wanted to ask me some questions. So I felt pretty good about myself. But I later found out that Coach, Coach Haywood is like that. He really likes to always looking for new ways to do things, always looking for new experiences in terms of being able to share with his players. He's kind of like a sponge for football. He just knowledge. He just wanted to soak it all in. That's just kind of the coach that he was. That's what great coaches do, and that's what Coach Haywood always did as well, as I found out later. Well, to make this longer story shorter, after the season, we connected with one another. We got together and we were on the phone, and we shared a lot of ideas. We talked for a long time, he and I, and he had a lot of questions for me. I had a lot of questions for him. But this is the interesting part of the conversation. Is after we finished talking, for a while, he said that he had an idea. That he said after he quit coaching, that he wanted he wanted to and invited me to join him, and he said he wanted to start a call-in radio show with where young coaches could call in with kind of tough topics, tough questions about coaching that we, with our experience, could give them answers. And he wanted to know if I would be interested in doing it with him. And I said, sure. I said, wait till the season, wait till we all quit coaching, Of course, he never quit coaching, and I quit coaching a little bit after that season. I really one more season after that I gave it up. But my point I'm getting to is, I absolutely love the idea when he was telling me about it, and that is really where the idea of you and I, our podcast came from. We did it as a podcast, but that's really where it originated, was in my conversation with Philip. And he was just a mountain of a man. He's just a super person and a great football coach.
That's a great story. And man, that's the guy that I know. My story with it's a November story also, but it was a tougher one. Sometimes when the season ends, I've never experienced a state champion. When the season ends and it hasn't been as successful as you had wanted it to be or hoped, I mean, it can be a really tough thing. And a lot of times it's the day after that last game. It is just absolutely brutal. Yeah. And I remember one time in Maysville, I think the family was all gone. I think I'm sitting in the dark in the house. I mean, just I tell you, I try to do a good job on the outside, but I'm a horrible loser. I just don't deal with it well. And this is after probably 20 years. We had some good teams at Mason County. We'd feel like we're going to be in the ballpark or make a run, and then we'd fall short. And here's the other part of it too. This goes back to that '86 game in Paris and all that. That '86 Paris game makes me feel like you can win every Friday night. I mean, I really think that. I think there is a way to win every Friday night. And you know what? If you're the head coach, if you don't win, that's the first guy that gets looked at in the mirror. All right, what you need to do different? What you got to fix and that type of stuff. So anyway, one of those Saturday nights after that last loss, and I mean, just hitting rock bottom, really, just very, very discouraged. So I called Philip because, Philip was a head coach in '75, but they didn't win a state championship till 2003. Mm-hmm. So it was almost 30 years. And, I'm getting ready for year 33 coming up. But I called him. I said, Coach, how did you cope and navigate with all the times before you did get there and all that? And he told a really powerful story. And because I was so frustrated, I didn't even know. I mean, I was so frustrated in that moment. I was ready to just walk in and say, I can't do it. I can't take it. I just couldn't take it. And he told me, he's like, David, he said, I felt exactly like that. And he said, don't do anything till after Christmas. But he said, David, he said, I know exactly how you feel. And he told me about a story. He said, one of those Saturdays or one of those times after a disappointing loss in November. He said, David, he said, I'm just out chopping wood, trying just to cope with my frustration and anger. And he said, David, I just finally stopped. He said, I just started screaming at God. And I said, God, if you want me to do this, you have got to give me some success. And he was defining success in that moment, I think, as a state championship, because obviously he had won and had success as a coach. But he just, that was just the point that he reached. And Philip's faith was very important to him. And, I think when I heard that story and he shared it with me, I think what had helped for me in that moment is I could understand he had felt in that moment exactly how I was feeling with him talking on the phone. He knew exactly what it was like. And you know what? Over the years, and I would say this about you as well. I think the guys that maybe make the biggest impression on me are the guys that they get to that mountaintop, but they never forget what it was like to get there. And I don't think Philip ever forgot what it was like to get to the summit and just really just having a phenomenal run after 2003. I mean, absolutely incredible. But that story that he shared with me and him, and here's the other thing. When I called him, he's still playing. He's busy. I'm the one that now I don't have a game to get ready for. But I tell you what, Philip Haywood, if you needed him and he could help somebody, man, he's dropping what he's got going on to talk. Just like you
100%.
did for him. You did for him. You had a game to get ready for because you were getting ready for Corbin, but you made time for Philip because that's the kind of person you are. So, I'll never forget that about Philip. I'll always be thankful for that. But when I think of Philip Haywood, I'm always going to think of that night on the phone with him and that story.
Yeah, that's an awesome story, David. It really is. But that's who he is. I mean, he will truly be missed. High school football in the state of Kentucky will not be the same without him, really. No,
not at all. And boy, I'm just thankful that our paths crossed with him, that he was a Kentucky guy. And, I'm biased, and I've said this. I'm biased. My dad's an old coach and all those things. I got my Boyle County helmet up here and my old Mercer and Paris, and I got all that up here. But I do really think this. I think Kentucky high school is very special, the coaches and the players. And Philip Haywood, Exhibit A. Yeah. Exhibit A. I mean, he's connected to Roy Walton, Eastern Kentucky, the mountains. Yeah. I mean, hey, Philip's awesome. He's awesome. And
don't get any better. It doesn't get any better.
I agree.
Hey, David, what we got for the next podcast?
Well, hey, we got Coach Chris Fisher with the Texas High School Football Chat on Twitter. Wow. Awesome. So we're going to take another different approach. We're going to hit the state of Texas. I think they know how to play football in Texas. I'm proud of Kentucky high school football, but I got to give Texas their due. Man, that is a football state. They love it. And so we're excited. And, like you're talking about coach being a sponge, I'm still trying to be a sponge. One of the things I love about this podcast has really helped me grow and be a better coach for the Anderson County Bearcats. And so, I like that we're going to talk to Coach Fisher. We're going to get hooked in with some Texas coaches. And again, we've said this often. We're here for our listeners, and we are working like crazy to give our listeners a great experience. And
we'll bring some Texas ideas. We'll bring some Texas ideas to our listeners.
Amen. Yeah. And again, it's not just football, it's coaching, it's teaching, and it's leadership. I think that's got to be a foundation of what we're doing.
Absolutely. Hey, and listeners, if you will hang on and listen to Mac's historic segment, you won't be disappointed. It's awesome. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Sports, and in particular high school sports, are woven into the fabric of Americana. High school sports are part of the DNA of communities across the country, and that is certainly true in Kentucky. Fans know the stories of the big names, but there are many names and many stories that have been lost to history. This series highlights those forgotten heroes. Welcome to this edition of Forgotten Heroes. I'm your host, Mac Yoakum. High school sports in Kentucky have been blessed with some of the best coaches anywhere in the country. For many, many years, the coaches, particularly at the small schools, coached every sport. Football, basketball, baseball, track. One guy did it all. These jack-of-all-trade coaches put up a lot of wins, and they did it in a wide variety of ways. One of those great coaches was Forrest Aggie Sale at Harrodsburg High. Aggie had been an All-American basketball player for Adolph Rupp at the University of Kentucky. He coached at his alma mater, Kavanaugh High in Lawrenceburg, before he moved down the road to Harrodsburg. Aggie excelled as a football and basketball coach for the Pioneers. His teams were always near the top of the Central Kentucky Conference in both sports. Aggie was one who was always looking for an advantage over his opponents, and his basketball Pioneers implemented a system of discipline that other coaches found a bit odd. Coach Sale put in place an unusual set of training and discipline rules. The whole system was set up by the players and administered by the players. Harrodsburg Superintendent J.K. Powell, father of future Eastern Kentucky University President Dr. J.C. Powell, came up with the concept of a cooperative self-discipline program. The players ran with the idea and developed the plan. The players set up an organization composed of all team members. The team captains were put in charge. The players' organization made their own training rules and rules for personal conduct, and they fixed penalties for violations. They all agreed that if a player knew another player violated the rules and didn't report it, then that player had the same penalties as the offender. Any player charged with violating a rule had their case studied by the entire team. The offender was not allowed in the team meeting, and if it was determined that a rule was broken, the team moved quickly to dole out justice. The team was eager for their system to work, so they made sure rule breakers were dealt with accordingly. For instance, if a player was found guilty of smoking, they had 50 laps around the gym. A second violation, and they were dismissed from the team. Only one player was found guilty all year of smoking, and he readily accepted his punishment. The penalty for keeping late hours at night was 20 laps. Only 4 players all season were guilty of that infraction. An unexcused absence from practice was 50 laps, and no player ever had to run for missing practice. Drinking intoxicating beverages was an automatic dismissal from the team, and players were only allowed to have 1 date per week. No player was dismissed during the season, and no rule was ever broken twice. The players extended their discipline program to their daily class schedule and even went so far as to add rules regarding swearing, tardiness, and absenteeism. Coach Sale said the team took the program with all seriousness. The player who added the no swearing rule to the program on a Monday was found on Tuesday to be running his punishment laps because he broke his own rule during school hours. Rules were made that addressed openly bad attitude toward game officials. Fans, opponents, and game officials all season long complimented Aggie and his Pioneers for the way they conducted themselves. Aggie Sale and his unique discipline program must have worked because his 1950-51 Pioneers finished as regional runners-up in a controversial regional championship game with University High, and they went 40-4 in 1950 and 1951 and were 74-15 over a 4-year span before he stepped down following the 1951 season. Aggie Sale, a legendary basketball player, turned into an innovative, legendary coach. You can find more Forgotten Heroes stories wherever you find your podcast.